You're tuned into the Now Morning Show, and it's time to shine a spotlight on dealing with young adults.
This morning, inside your spotlight, we're chatting with Dr. Asha Pemberton, paediatrician and adolescent medicine specialist, and focus on teen health. Good morning to you, Dr. Pemberton.
Good morning, and thanks so much for having me once again.
Not a problem at all. Welcome back. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing pretty good. It's a bright and sunny Tuesday.
Give thanks for that. I wanted to focus the conversation this morning. We're at a transition period, this vacation period, where we have some students who would have just received their CSEC results. They might be going from Form 5 to Form 6. They might be going from Form 6 to university. They might be going from Form 5 to the working world, from Form 6 to the working world. What are some of the tips that parents should be aware of when it comes to that transition and how we can help them smooth over that transition a bit?
So excellent question. And as I often say, parenting is a journey that, different skills and different applications are required along the way. And certainly as young people transition into later adolescence and young adulthood, sometimes parents feel confused or unsure of what their roles continue to be. So the number one thing I want to say to everybody listening today is that even though part of your craft will change form, young people absolutely need the guidance of their parents as they transition into emerging adulthood. And it's all about connection over correction. So in early childhood and certainly in early adolescence, your role would hopefully include more direct control, more direct influence. But as young adults find their way in the world, we want them to achieve functional independence. Because at the end of the day, the goal of parenting and the goal of childhood is to produce a fully functional adult on the other end who will then regenerate our population and contribute to society, right? And so those skills of functional independence don't happen magically at age 18, age 21, or after your degree. They have to be cultivated and honed. So your young person who's just received results, again, this is a whirlwind of emotions. So some are excited and happy, some are disappointed, some are unsure, and some are simply confused. And so the first sort of step I want to encourage parents that they need to do is just be there and be open and be non-judgmental and listen to their young person. They will be the guide of their own lives. They will be able to indicate to you their interests, their passions, where they feel most connected, and be there to shepherd them through. For parents, this requires emotional regulation and acceptance, because it's, I think, pretty often that young people choose paths which differ from what parents wanted for them. And that's okay. You have to strike a balance because, again, they have to live their own functional lives. So it's all about connecting with them, spending time holding space, resisting the urge to push and prod and direct, but yet shield and guide along their journey and help them to achieve their fullest potential.
Doc, when we talk emotional regulation, what advice would you give to parents on how to do that? Because I think oftentimes you react without realizing that you're having an emotional reaction to something.
Absolutely. So you want to move to a space of responding as opposed to reacting. And the number one strategy is to seek your own support. So when you find yourself getting angry, you feel that heat rising in your chest and you just can't control yourself, honestly, you have to practice skills of mindfulness so that you become aware of those emotions, and you need to seek support. So for parents, again, when you have a child, again, goals, dreams, expectations, everything is deep in your heart. And when life does not quite go along the pathway that you envision, it is a natural response to be frustrated or angry or sad, etc. The key is to recognize that the feelings are valid, but how you manage your feelings and how you step forward is what makes all the difference towards the relationship between yourself and your young adult. So in summary, it is recognition of your emotions, practicing the tools of mindfulness, relaxation, and seeking support. Your emerging adult child cannot be there for your emotional well-being, which is what parents often do. So they sort of unpack on their older children expecting them to understand, which they may or may not do, but it's not their role to manage your emotional well-being, right? And so parents within their wider family construct or seeking professional or other support would be my recommendation, so that you can have somebody else help you manage yourself so that you can then parent your young person for what they actually need.
Yeah, and that sounds good when we're talking in theory, right? But oftentimes, when children are, especially young adults, you might be seeing them going down a path that is not necessarily just not the path that you want them to go down or that you envision for them, but it might be a path that you might see leading them down to a dark road or to trouble or lawlessness in some cases. How do you, what would you suggest as the best approach to dealing with that or to curbing that? If you hadn't noticed and then you started to notice and you realize, oh my goodness, this is far gone. How do I get them back on the right path without being correctional and connecting at the same time?
Yeah. So I think what generally happens in those situations, honestly, is that the connection falls apart. And culturally, parents will say, oh, well, they're big now, so I can't say anything. I mean, I've heard that so many times over the last 10 years. And so part of our cultural landscape is that after a certain age, parents sometimes step back and almost abdicate the responsibility and say, well, you're an adult now, that's at you. And that is the mistake. And so even if today you recognize your adult child is engaging in, risky behaviors, or as you said, going down a path of criminality or just poor decision making, it is to continue to reinforce that, you know what, you're 21, but I am still your mom. I still love you. I still care about you. I'm not here to shout, but I'm here to say I am concerned. I am worried about you. I see these things, et cetera, and have that conversation. When you meet aggression with aggression, nothing fruitful emerges from that. But it's about continuing to take the time. It is time intensive, my friends. Have no fear, this is not a one-off conversation, but you do have to have that persistence and that tenacity to let them know that you are a safe space, that you continue to care, that you continue to hold space for them, and that you're there along the journey. Difficult, absolutely, but I think most parents tend to not even do that. They just in frustration either give up or shout, and then again, nothing fruitful evolves from either of those.
And when it comes to deciding or being able to navigate the difference between seeing you go down a road of criminality or lawlessness versus you might be making some poor decisions that might give you some good stories in your 20s, as the case may be. As a parent, how do I notice the difference between those two and navigate accordingly?
So functionality, that's the magic word of adolescent and young adult development. And so risk-taking, experimentation is part and parcel of the process. And in fact, it's important because we only learn how to make better decisions when we've made poorer decisions and, accepted the consequences, right? So it's a sort of a two-pronged approach. To some extent, parents do have to allow young people to make decisions and no matter the outcome to live through it, so to speak. So what happens, again, culturally, parents either helicopter in and try to fix everything and sort things out, and the young person learns nothing and thinks that they are invincible when they are not, or parents just throw their hands in the air in frustration and do nothing. So you have to find that balance, and sort of the buzzword in the field is balanced parenting. So you could only be a balanced parent if you're connected and if you know what's going on. So that's the relationship building. You can only impart your wisdom if there is a communication process, and that's the communication skills that we're talking about. And again, how you share your wisdom is less instructional and more conversational. And as I said, in our culture, I find young people respond to stories. So if you can find real life stories, of which there are a gazillion, to which your young person can connect to highlight, there was this person who did X, Y, and Z and ended up in this situation. What do you think about that? Using teachable moments, our press, our social media, our TV streaming, no shortage of situations where you can engage a conversation, ask their opinions, use humor. Humor is a powerful teaching tool when you can start a conversation, have laughter, engage deeper cognitive thought without coming on to be too so oppressive. So those are some quick strategies that we can use. But as you can tell, the underpinning to all of that is spending time, having a strategy, and recognizing that your role does not end at a certain age or stage, but you are their parent for a lifetime.
Now, aside from the role of the parents, what is the role of the community, the village, when it comes to helping with that transition into adulthood as well?
So, I mean, golden stuff here this morning. So again, for a number of reasons, let's just say, some young people, for a variety of reasons, be it illness, be it death, do not have that intimate parental presence. Right. And so, again, we have to recognize that the role of extended families, neighborhoods, communities very much fill that gap or actually supplement that relationship in many situations. And so, the role of mentorship, which is, I think, something that I guess we could talk about another time. The fact that many trusted and caring adults sometimes have such a positive impact on young people by simply spending time with them. The dividends come in the future. And the thing I would say to anybody who has an interest in working with young people, one of the things in the field that we love is that even though in the moment you don't see the output, in the future you often do. So you talk to a young person and they're kind of sitting there like, oh my goodness. And you think you're not getting through to them. And then 5-7 years later, you hear all of these amazing things. Or even if you don't see them in person, you hear through the grapevine how well they have done. So community support is critical. Mentorship is critical. The role of extended family is critical as well. And so for all adults who have the interest, never underestimate the ability that you have to positively impact a young person's life.
And should we be concerned about what they consume in terms of media, in terms of television, social media, all of that stuff? Does that what role does it play when it comes to that transition? Because we see so many things that are concerning online on a daily basis, right? And this is the concerning to me as an adult. I can't imagine what the reaction of these young adults are to it. Some of them like it, they don't realize the importance of it, they don't realize the effect that it's having on them. What role does social media play in that transition?
Yeah, they don't even realize how numb they become to some of the content. So social media has been specifically designed to be quote unquote addictive or to create an environment where you continually want to engage that infinite scroll, right? So the constant bursts of information, the algorithms which tweak themselves to what you focus on, and the fact that you could go on forever. These are not accidental things, right? These are very intentionally created. And again, young people are digital natives. And so this is all they have ever known. We have the fortune of having known a world and grown up in a world where it didn't exist. So we can sort of ascertain and distinguish before and after. They do not have that luxury. So again, we need to have those conversations. Media, AI, ChatGPT, Reddit, these things are here to stay. So we really need to have conversations with young people as to how they engage it. And something I like to say to parents as well is to help them see the misinformation or disinformation therein. So it's really about teaching them how to filter information and to accept things which you know to be positive, supportive, true, and to be able to ignore things that are not. And these skills may seem intuitive, but they're actually not. They do need to be taught in a space where they are inundated with information.
And I guess it starts with the foundation of comprehension and having that communication with your children as well, yeah?
Absolutely. And teaching them those skills. So comprehension skills, that's a lovely term. We have to teach them to be able to look at information and figure things out and filter it out and have a rational approach. So ideally, this would have started hopefully before adulthood. But even if it didn't, I mean, there's always an opportunity to be better. And once you know better, you can do better. So even if you have to start today, we can start today.
You know what? I fully agree with that. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Dr. Pemberton, and giving us these gems. Any more you want to drop before we wrap up this morning?
Just to highlight that there are resources out there, even locally. The Pediatric Society of Trinidad and Tobago has just relaunched its social media pages, and the mission of the Pediatric Society, this is a group of pediatricians of which we are all members. We're really all about championing child and adolescent health. Everything on the website is just public-facing content to support parents, to raise awareness. And so sometimes parents feel like there is nowhere to go, but that is not true. We're working and we're building, and there are resources. So, just the same way social media has its dark sides, there are positive sides as well. So
Most
happy
definitely.
to engage and support where we can.
Thank you so much for the work that you're doing, and thank you for joining us this morning, Dr. Pemberton.
Thank you.
No problem. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care. That's Dr. Asha Pemberton, pediatrician and adolescent medicine specialist with a focus on teen health, sharing with us some tips on how to deal with young adults. And I think we definitely all could take some pointers from it, because the community definitely has a part to play in the connection over correction. Yeah? Let's take a quick break and we come back with more in our morning show. Stay tuned.